Hey, this is Joe with SnapFab. In this video, I'm going to show you what I've found to be the simplest way to make a shrinking stump. Now, if you already have a stump that you use for your shop bag and your mallet work when metal shaping, should have a shrinking stump. We're going to show you how to do that right now. So right now, we're going to assume that you've already got a stump, and what we're going to do is we just want to pick a location of where we want to put the dish in our shrinking stump. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a circular saw and make some plunge cuts and just section this off like a pie over and over and over again until we get to the point that we don't have much material to plunge the saw into. So we're going to show you that real quick here. Now with our circular saw here, obviously the dish that we're going to put into the stump is going to be as deep as our blade depth. So if you want it shallow, you can adjust your blade depth. I'm going to go full depth because I want a dish that is as deep as I can get it. So here we go. Now with the circular saw, we've made all of these pie cuts all the way around to the point that we've started to actually remove quite a bit of material, but we've got all these little wedges left where we want our dish to be. And to take that out, hammer and chisel, as easy as that. Just start taking these wedges out. Now I'm going to keep clearing these wedges out of here and we'll come back when I'm done. Alright, as you can see here, a lot of the material is removed out of this dish, both using chisel and with using the circular saw. And now to kind of clean up this dish and smooth everything out, I'm going to use an angle grinder with a real coarse sanding disc on it and just use that to shape out the dish. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfectly round, but we just want a nice smooth dish so that we're not transferring any grooves or divots to our metal when we're using this as a surface to hammer against. So I'm just going to take this grinder and smooth it all out. All right, our dish in the stump here is pretty well smoothed out. All of the grooves or pie cuts that we put in here with the circular saw are gone. It's pretty, I mean, I'm really happy with how smooth it is. I think I'm about done. The dish isn't perfectly symmetrical. There are some dips here. It takes a little bit different contour than it does over here, but that's okay. It's not a perfect circle either. Again, that's okay. Basically, it gives us some different surfaces. If I was working on a really tight compound, not necessarily compound, but a tight curve, I could do some planishing in here, and it gives me some different surfaces to work on. I've got other shrinking stumps that have different depth dishes, different diameter dishes, and that's just like any other tool. It serves a different purpose, works for a different shape. So inconsistencies, differences in the contours and the dish are a good thing, in my opinion anyway. So I'm going to condition this with some oil, and then we'll show you how to shrink with a sheet of aluminum. Figured what the heck, I'd show you what I like to use for conditioning wood. I use Howard's Butcher Block conditioner. This is the same wood conditioner that I use on my wooden mallets that I sell. And really this is just to keep the surface moist, and it just prolongs the life of wooden tools. Obviously wooden surfaces because it's used for butcher block, but I use it on just about anything that I want to keep conditioned that's made out of wood. I'll just squirt a bunch of it on here. Use an old sock to work it into the surface. And this is pretty dry, so it's going to absorb it pretty well. So there it is. Howard Butcher Block conditioner. Let this set in, we'll get some aluminum, and we'll show you how to shrink. Alright, we got a disc of aluminum here that will slowly shape into a bowl by doing shrinking. I believe it's 16 gauge. It measures 59/60 thousandths, so I believe that should be 16 gauge. The reason I measure it is this edge measures 59/60 thousandths right now, and as we shrink it, we'll actually be pulling this material in on itself, so this edge will get thicker. So as we shrink it, I'll take a measurement and see how much thicker it's got, just for argument's sake. So what we're going to do is just show the basic of shrinking using a wooden mallet and a wooden shrinking stump. In order to shrink, we need to create what's called a tuck on the edge of this material. And every time we create a tuck and flatten that tuck out, we're actually going to be shrinking the edge in on itself and slowly starting to create a curve in the edge. What we're going to first do is work this edge and create tucks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the edge of my material up to the edge of my dish using end of the mallet. I'm going to strike on the inside of this dish, which is going to cause what's called a tuck. All right, there you can see this ripple that we've put in the edge of the aluminum. That's what's referred to as a tuck. So I'm going to keep working this edge and create more tucks along here, and then we'll flatten those tucks out. Alright, you can see this edge has got a bunch of tucks in it now, and we've started to curve over the material, and that's happening because we're stretching it. And as we're stretching it on the inner edge of the material here, that's stressing the edge, which the stretching the edge is creating the tucks. Now we take those tucks out by using the blunt end of a mallet on a flat surface. We'll use the flat surface on our stump here. So now all those tucks are for the most part gone, and we've effectively shrunk the edge of this aluminum in on itself just ever so slightly. You know, we still have the stretch that we put into the edge of the material here, but all of those tucks are gone. I'm going to continue working this edge, creating more tucks, and we'll keep creating tucks and planishing them back out to shrink the edge of this material. There we got some pretty deep ones. The farther we work into this disc, obviously the deeper and longer these tucks are going to get, and that just means that we're stressing the inside of this material enough that it's causing this ripple or this tuck, and we'll just keep planishing those back out. You can see there we've got a really good aggressive couple tucks going here. When we first started to work the edge, you'll notice that there was a bunch of small tucks relatively close together. As we get deeper and deeper into this disc, the tucks will get farther apart and they'll start to get deeper. So as you're getting deeper into a disc like this, if you notice that the number of tucks that you get are less and less, that's okay. Just keep beating and creating tucks and planishing them back out. there we can see that our flat disc that we started with is starting to get quite a bit of depth to it. And as we continue to put tucks in this edge and forcing them in on themselves and shrinking that edge, this disc or this bowl can get deeper and deeper. And of course we're going to have to do some stretching in the center here to just kind of elongate that center. But as we do that, we'll have to keep shrinking this edge to see if we have in fact shrunk this edge. Remember at the beginning here I said that this material would get thicker as we did the shrinking process, and I think it was 59 to 60 thousandths. And now here we've got 62, 66, 61, 59, 62, 64, 64. So you can tell that the material on the edge here is getting thicker the more and more we shrink it together, which that's exactly what we expect to have happen. But that's a pretty good start, just to show you the basics, obviously how to make a shrinking stump and then how to use a shrinking stump. The basics I've shown you here with this aluminum is the same for working steel. Obviously steel is going to take a little more effort than working aluminum. That's why I work with aluminum. It's kind of instant gratification here. You see the results a lot quicker. Thinner gauge steel is going to work pretty well doing this method. You start to get to a thicker gauge steel, like if this was 16 gauge steel, not 16 gauge aluminum, it would be a lot harder to work. You'd be working with 18, 19 gauge steel. Even if you're working with 20 gauge steel, obviously it'll get easier because it's thinner material. But the theory is the same. You're creating tucks, shrinking those tucks in on themselves to shrink the material, hence the shrinking stump. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.